All right, so today we are diving deep into a very specific and, let's be honest, kind of esoteric fraternity, the Kappa Alpha Society over at Hobart College. We're going to get brutally honest here. What's the real story inside a brotherhood that's been around since 1844? Let's find out. So, right off the bat, let's get one thing straight. The source material puts it perfectly with this quote. If you're picturing Animal House, you're going to want to adjust your expectations. We are definitely exploring a very, very different kind of brotherhood. So, what exactly are we dealing with here? Well, the source calls this chapter boutique or esoteric. And it's on this small, kind of introspective liberal arts campus. This isn't just some run-of-the-mill frat. We're talking about a direct descendant of the very first Greek letter society in all of North America. And the history here is, well, it's serious. The original KA Society got started way back in 1825. This chapter at Hobart, 1844. Think about that. This organization has some incredibly deep roots, and you can feel it today. It carries this classical, almost philosophical vibe around campus. And right away you see the fundamental tension, don't you? It's a double-edged sword. On one hand, having a history that goes back to 1844 gives you this elite intellectual brand. But on the other hand, that same legacy can feel a little stuffy, a little old-fashioned. And that philosophical tone, it can sometimes kind of crowd out the social life. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of the evaluation, starting with something absolutely crucial, the alumni network. I mean, it's a huge reason people join fraternities in the first place. So what's the real-world value for a KA from Hobart? Does it actually matter? Okay, no sugarcoating this one. The source material basically says, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. The score for alumni value is a 52 out of 100. Not exactly setting the world on fire. But what does a number like that actually mean in practice? So here's the deal with that 52. This is not a golden ticket. You're not getting an automatic passport to Wall Street or some big shot law firm just because you are a member. The network is described as, well, niche. It's got some subtle influence, sure, but in very specific areas like academia or maybe professional circles in upstate New York. The real takeaway is this phrase. It's a network that helps those who help themselves. You've got to be the one to make it. All right, so if it's not about being some professional powerhouse, then what is it about? This gets us to the actual culture of the chapter today. The source paints this picture of a kind of quirky, intellectual group. You know, it's for guys who are thinkers first, but they still crave that sense of community. And this is the question on everybody's mind, right? What about the parties? The mixers with sororities, the classic frat bra stuff that we all see in the movies. And here it is, the score, a 35 out of 100. Yeah, that's a low number. And honestly, it feels like that's almost by design. This chapter is actively trying not to be that kind of fraternity. So what does a 35 really feel like? Well, you're not going to find the weekly ragers or those wild pledging stories. Instead, the source uses this amazing phrase, curated gatherings. We're talking indie playlists, not keg stands. The whole vibe is introvert inclusive, which is a phrase you almost never hear when you're talking about fraternities. It's chill, maybe, a little too chill sometimes. Okay, let's just keep being brutally honest. The source goes there, so we're going there. What's the impact on your dating life, your social life? Does joining help you, hook up? The score here, a 38 out of 100. Again, pretty low. This chapter just doesn't have that social dominance reputation that you see at a lot of other places, which is often what fuels that whole hookup scene on campus. So the bottom line is pretty simple. This is not some kind of sexual express lane. In fact, the source points out that members often attract people who are specifically looking for someone who isn't the stereotypical frat bro. At the end of the day, your own personality and your own confidence are going to matter way, way more than the Greek letters you're wearing. All right, now we get to a really, really unique metric from the source material. It's called the homoerotic level. And before you jump to any conclusions, let's be super clear. This scale is all about measuring the platonic, emotional, and physical closeness between brothers. It's about the depth of the brotherhood itself. Okay, so here's how the scale works. It goes from a 1, which is basically business casual roommates, all the way up to a 10. For what we're talking about, that sweet spot is right around a 4. That's the bromance tier. You know, guys who cook together, go to the gym, and actually give each other real emotional support. So where does Kappa Alpha's New York Beta chapter land on this scale? A 4.4 out of 10. Boom, right in that bromance sweet spot. And this is so important to understand. The source makes it crystal clear. The intimacy here is psychological, not physical. This is all about deep friendship, those late-night conversations about life, and having a safe space where you can actually be emotionally vulnerable. It's a brotherhood of the mind and of the spirit. Okay, let's pull all of these different threads together and look at the final scorecard. We've talked about the deep history, the kind of sort of network, the subdued social scene, and the nature of the brotherhood itself. So what does it all add up to? The final overall score from the source is a 49 out of 100. Now, I know that sounds low, but in a weird way, it perfectly captures what this fraternity is. It's a niche, unconventional group that isn't even trying to get a high score on the typical frat scale. So, at the end of the day, the trade-off is pretty obvious. The pros are huge if they're what you're looking for. You get historic charm, a truly deep intellectual brotherhood, a unique identity, and a real safe space for friendship. The cons are just the other side of that same coin. A mild party scene, low hookup potential, and a definite lack of what the source calls that alpha energy. Which brings us to the final, most important question of all. After this whole deep dive, who is this fraternity actually for? Who should join? We know what you're not getting. You are not getting Animal House. But what you are getting, according to the source, is something else entirely. It's a home for those introverted, maybe offbeat intellectuals. It's a philosophical environment. It's a brotherhood that's described as weirdly sincere. You're going to get stories that have texture and depth, not just stories about who was the loudest. And that brings us to the final verdicts. And honestly, the source material just sums it up perfectly with this one line. This chapter, it's for the anti-frat guy who still believes in brotherhood. It's a total paradox, right? And for that one right person, it might be the exact thing they've been looking for.
By the lakeside halls where lanterns glow, quiet strength and curious minds we grow. Books and brotherhood, wit and grace, honor over ego, this is our place. New York Beta, raise the banner high. Alpha, minds and hearts align. Thoughtful brotherhood, learn for life we rise. New York Beta, by the lake we shine. Kappa Alpha, hey! New York Beta, hey! We rise.